Here comes the money.
Money talk.
Here comes the money. Money, 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 money.
Dollar, 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 dollar.
What's going on, guys? Mr. Maltese again. Today we're going to be starting our first lesson of the economics unit, one of my favorite units. But we are going to be starting off extremely simple, and we're going to be working our way up to bigger ideas like inflation, deflation, monopoly. But today we're going to start with just the very basics, a want versus a need, to help us understand a little bit about products. So when we are looking at different products, like I said, there's two main types we're going to look at today, just a want versus a need. Want versus need. A need is something that you need to have. I mean, it is there in the name, pretty straightforward, something that you need to have. For example, it could be something like shelter, a place to live. It could be something like water. Now, it could also be something like a phone. And I know what you could be thinking is, Mr. Maltese, you don't need a phone to survive. But in today's society, you could easily make the argument that in order to maintain a normal, average, standard life in this country, you do need a phone. Personally, I use my phone as a clock. I use it for email, communication. I use it for work pretty much on a daily basis. So most people, I would say, consider phones a need in this country. And then, of course, transportation, we need some way to get around. Because the way society has developed, it's very sprawled out. You need to leave your city every now and then for work, for business, whatever reason, and that requires transportation. Now, these are just some needs. Obviously, there are a lot more out there. These are just some basic ones to start with. Next, we have this idea of something called a want. And again, just like the last one, it's in the name there. A want is something that you don't necessarily need to maintain your lifestyle, to maintain living. It's simply something that you would enjoy having. Now, pure wants are typically going to be things that are designed for entertainment. Think, for example, like an amusement park, a theme park. Think of going to a movie theater. Think of a gaming console or a video game. Think of going to a big event like sports or a concert. All of these things we enjoy, we love, we'll spend tons and tons of money on them, but we don't necessarily need them in any way. The last thing I want to talk about here is when these two ideas intersect with each other, where they relate to each other. What I mean by that is there's certain things that we can say are a need, but they are also a want. For example, if you look right here, you'll see these shoes, clothing. Clothing is something that you need to have in the normal standard of living in this country. But there's a very big difference between needing a shoe and wanting a shoe that costs a couple $100s. When it comes to phones, like we said, that's a need for the different purposes we use it for today. But again, there's a difference between needing a phone and wanting the newest iPhone. Very last example down here, need. If you live in a big city and you need transportation to get around, I mean, there's lots of public options. There's city buses, there's subways. In Arizona, we have the light rail. Even if those aren't options, there are cars that are more affordable, as opposed to maybe something everybody would like to have, like an expensive exotic sports car. So what I would like you guys to do down here is you are going to simply just give me an example of each. I want you to come up with your own example. Do not use any of the examples that I used in the presentation, because I want to see your understanding of these three simple ideas, guys. So you're going to give one. What is something that can only be a want? What is something that can only be a need? And then, like I did in this slide right here, I would like you to give an example of something that can be both a want and a need, and explain it like I did. Again, I'll use the phone here. People need to have a phone for communication, for work, for internet, but we want the fancy phone, the nice phone, the newest iPhone with the latest and greatest technology. So tomorrow, you guys, Tuesday, we will have office hours again. Please stop by. We're going to discuss some economics on want versus needs. I'd like you guys to stop by and share your answers. If you have a moment to share with us, that would be great. If not, stop by Wednesday and share. And then on Thursday, we are going to continue economics with supply and demand.